Whether players like it or not, Wizards of the Coast is now in control of Commander, and that leaves a lot of speculation up in the air about what's going to happen next. Will there be unbannings at some point? Well, in today's video, we are going to discuss that possibility of unbannings, which cards you should worry about, and which ones are pretty much a safe bet that they're not getting unbanned. The possibility of unbanning any reserve list card in Commander gives me shivers, gives me goosebumps thinking about all that money changing hands, all the news that will come around if some card that has been banned for years all of a sudden becomes playable. Welcome back, everyone. MTG Moxman here. Thank you again for hanging out with me on my channel, and it is an important topic. As much as players are speculating about what's going to happen out there, there is some basic information, some basic data you can gather on your own and be at least informed about the possibility of what could get unbanned in Commander at some point. Now, most people I know have been talking about what happened this weekend with Tolarian Academy. I did the top 10 video, 300 plus sales. It was insane. Wish lists and stuff started appearing, and that's because players are under that assumption that there is a possibility that this $50, $60 card could be unbanned. Now, I want to show you this card. Let's take a look at it. Here we have Tolarian Academy. Now, right now, this is a heavily played copy from TCG Player. That is $149 US, when just a few days ago, this thing was like 60 bucks for like a near mint. Now, when we look at this card, and you see all those sales racking up on this thing, you realize just how crazy people can be with the idea that it could be unbanned. The idea that there is money on the table that somebody, some speculator, some regular Joe that just happens to own a few copies could make a fortune off of. And then FOMO takes over and everything starts running like a hamster in a wheel. We're just going round and round, but we're not really going anywhere. Because there are some hard facts and some hard truths that we have to face. Number one, I don't like the idea of these cards being banned. I'll state that up front. I'm a reserve list guy. I love the cards. But at the same time, even I have to be realistic about possibilities of cards being unbanned. What is in the best interests of Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro's bottom line? Now, take a look at this. Number one, let's take a look at Tolarian Academy. It's banned in Legacy, banned in Commander, banned in Oathbreaker, and it's restricted in Vintage, and for good reason, but we'll get to that. Because even locally, this thing is sold out. So it's sold out locally, people are buying it, but it really can't be played anywhere because it's Vintage only right now. So what are the possibilities? Why would it be unbanned? How is that in Wizards of the Coast's best interest? Even if you made this thing, say they come up, people were talking about bracket 5, which is CDEH. Let's put the most broken cards there so everyone can play. Guys, if you've never seen the Urza block, there are reasons these cards are as powerful as they are. It was a low point in Magic the Gathering's history. It was a point where they thought the game was going under and they needed to turn things around, so they just jump-started the whole system with a couple of crazy blocks of cards, culminating in Urza's Saga. When you look at Tolarian Academy, most people see some amazing fun card. Other people see a broken, disgusting, twisted monstrosity of a card that in today's mechanics would just break everything. The mana ramp would be insane with treasures and tokens and all the craziness that could happen. But still, there are people who think it'll get unbanned. But let's get back to in Wizards of the Coast's best interest. When you look at that card, Tolarian Academy, Library of Alexandria, the Moxen, Power 9. When anyone looks at those cards, of course you'd love to play with them in Commander. And really you can if you want to, just in a non-official way, and you're doing some kitchen table or some casual play. Bracket 5, some craziness with no rules, okay? But for those regular players out there, even the slightly well-off players who want to play with this stuff, maybe CDH, but it probably won't be for Tolarian Academy. I want the card unbanned, but I'm under no illusion when I'm looking at the card under today's mechanics just how powerful that card will be. I'm not saying it couldn't be unbanned, I'm saying it's unlikely. Let's face facts, Wizards of the Coast derives no income. They have no incentive to unban reserve list cards. They don't get a slice of the pie. That's the easiest way you can put it to people. They don't make any money doing it, so why would they unban it? The only tangent conversation you could add to that is maybe they're going to pair some cards off with those cards. If they unban that, it can allow XYZ to be created to forward their agenda. Maybe. You could argue that at some level, but it just seems unlikely at this date and time that would be something they would unban. Because if you took a look at all the cards they've banned, there are a lot of cards people would love to see come back. The Prophet of Krufix, Tinker, all kinds of cards that Wizards of the Coast does have control over. They do control that market, and they would be allowed to reprint those cards in bracket 5, bracket 4, whatever. They got about, what, 40 cards on that ban list that they can't touch right now that they could bring back under some special Commander Luxury Edition. I mean, I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm saying look at where the facts would lie. Look where the realistic goals of a company would be. And it's going to be with what's best for the company. They need to make money. They just got control of a format which could allow them to exponentially grow out their market space for CDEH, Casual Commander, and anything in between. It allows them to create a directional path for the company. And that means they can directly say, hey, we're going to have a whole bracket over here for high-powered players. We can gear products. We can gear things for those players that are going to be at a higher level. Crazy fast games. Then we've got bracket 1 to 4 for the pre-con up to a fairly competitive level of good casual games. And everyone can kind of fit into these brackets. And don't forget, things will be refined over time. But it's what's best for the company, what they think will be good that players will enjoy, and hopefully somewhere in between a compromise of all these things. But it'll still be at the behest of what Wizards thinks and Hasbro thinks is best for the company, what makes them money. Do I think Library of Alexandria would be so cool if it was unbanned? Absolutely. Would I love to see a few of these reserve list cards unbanned? Yes! I just don't think it's going to happen. At least not in the immediate future. Like, I just don't see it playing out the way that a lot of players are hoping. But back to the speculation side. All the cards I've already mentioned have had upticks in sales. Sylvan, Primordial, all these cards that are on that list of banned commander cards have had upticks in sales because it's not just reserve list cards, it turns out, that players are speculating on. It's any card that's banned. Right now, players are looking at and buying copies. Hundreds in some cases. There are speculators out there right now starting to corner the market on cards that Wizards of the Coast could reprint if they legalized it back into Commander. Which means those cards may spike temporarily in value, but remember, if Wizards unbans it, they have every intention of reprinting it. So don't jump into the bandwagon and pay for an overpriced card, even if they become unbanned, because chances are it's going to be in a reprint product very soon. So be logical about it. Think these things through, and you can just see how it would play out. Now, you can argue with me. Put some great comments down in the comment section. I'm sure I'm going to put some clickbait title that people get mad and rage at, but at the same time, it draws viewership in to get these conversations started, and that's what I'm trying to do. I understand how some people can feel about Commander being controlled by Wizards and the idea of cards being banned or unbanned, depending on where you fall. You just want to play with the cards, you want to have a good time. And maybe there is a bracket and a tier that can be created for that. I just can't see it for a card like Tolarian Academy, which I shared with you guys. The price point, I think, will eventually fall back down. Cards like Fast Bond, maybe. I do have hopes for that card because there are so many ways of dealing with these problems. I just think whenever they unban something, they are forcing other players in Commander to start thinking about other issues they never had to think about before. If you unban the Prophet of Krufix, if you bring in Fast Bond, if you unbanned Tolarian Academy, you don't think people are going to run more land destruction? You don't think people are going to start adding all kinds of crazy cards in to deal with some of the issues they may be facing off against? It will boost sales across the board. Whatever they decide to do with unbannings in the future, and I think it's when, not if. I think it will happen. I just don't know which cards will be unbanned first, but they got a great selection to choose from, as I've learned. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this all plays out. I hope you guys take the time today to drop some comments in here and share those thoughts with me, because there's a lot going on here I think needs to be covered, and it can't be happening in a single conversation about just Tolarian Academy. I mean, they're not going to obviously unban a card like Charizard. There's not going to be cards that on the reserve list that are going to get unbanned. There may be one or two minor cards because they may have that adjacent conversation of pairing something off with it later in the R&D department that may boost the sale because Fastball's unbanned. We don't know that yet, but they'll be looking at it. If they can find cards adjacent that either work similar or can, by unbanning that reserve list card, make the sales of that card spike, that's what they'll look at. They don't really care about the reserve list card unless it benefits them. It's just how it fits into that piece of the puzzle, how it's going to work out. And a lot of players are speculating across the board on all of these cards. So if you're a player out there, take a look at some cards you think. If you're looking for them, maybe you want to buy one or two for your commander decks, but I wouldn't be jumping on this speculation bandwagon right now unless you think something's a surefire thing. Or you're willing to take that card to zero. Because some speculators are going to get burned, and some people will probably make some money over the next couple of years. You guys let me know what you think. Drop some comments in the comment section. Thank you again for hanging out with me today, MTG Moxman. And a reminder, if you enjoyed today's content, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Turn on your notification bell. I do put out new content every single day, and we're about 270 subscribers away from 25,000, if you can believe it. So thanks again, everyone, for supporting the channel. I will see you guys tomorrow with another video. Hey guys, a big shout out and thank you to the fantastic patronage of this channel. Because of my patrons, I get to make these videos each and every day, and because of them, I get to research and look into the information that you're interested in. So if you're one of my YouTube membership members, if you're one of the patrons, it's because of you guys that videos like this happen. To everyone else out there viewing the channel, you're supporting too just by watching. Thanks again, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow. That hurt. I want to face facts. Tolarian Academy is not getting unbanned. I looked at all kinds of gameplay scenarios. I talked to a lot of friends about how the thing could ramp up to insane levels of mana. It's going to cause some craziness. It's one of the original broken cards, in case you didn't know. Even back then. So there's so many one casting cost artifacts and moxes and stuff that broke things up. But let's get back to it. If they did unban it, it goes to $1,000. It doesn't benefit Wizards of the Coast. But if there are cards adjacent, if there are cards they're thinking of using, that could happen. That's the only scenario I see, is if the company can see, if we unban this card, but we create XYZ, these cards will spike because that card's unbanned, and we make our money. And if they put it into a bracket 5 or something crazy, then it may be justified. Like kind of like a no holds barred type thing. They're in control of that format. This is a weird ramble jamble, but this stuff is where your mind starts going, it could have, could not. But realistically, I'm saying it won't get unbanned. But there's always a scenario when you look for it that something could work out based on a whole bunch of outside determining factors. See, everyone's so quick to say it's the most broken card, myself included. But I'm looking at that card at the same time saying, you know, if they created a card that stops things for tapping, or it stops, you know, this land comes into play and any legendary land can't be tapped for mana. And this land taps for colorless. Well, you make it a mythic or make it a rare or make it tap for some, you know, comes in 2 counters and tap. There's scenarios in which they can stop those legendary lands from working. It's a great game mechanic that will be played a lot, and they can make it like a $10 card by making it like a mythic. Well, then that card gets sold a lot, gets sought after a lot in these higher level tiered formats because of the weird legendary lands they have to face off against. It may, you know, become a thing. You put Strip Mine in again at some special variants, and it becomes a higher valued card in the CDH format, and they print it specifically for that reason, and the card jumps to $50-$60. Sell enough of those, and they don't care what happens because everyone has the option of having a Strip Mine. Everyone has an option of having some other type of land destruction card that's a single casting cost or 2 casting costs that can be part of your 99. So there's always a scenario in which these things can work out. I think a more likely scenario would be something like a Library of Alexandria being allowed again if they're going to unban, you know, amazingly enough, reserve list cards, because that kind of card doesn't have the same effect it used to. Even tapping it 2 times a turn, lots of people can ramp up tons of drawing inside the game now that card doesn't look nearly as broken. But if you added some kind of mechanic with it and that card's going to sell, that's more of a reason to unban a card that can help it sell more copies. It's all depending on how the marketing is, all depends on where the R&D goes, and all depends on what lens you're looking through to get the result you want. Players are speculating, money is moving out fast, and there are cards I'd be looking at. You're wondering which ones I'd be looking at? Well, we'll cover that probably in a different video, and it might just be for the patrons. Guys, thanks again for hanging out. Thanks for being here at the end. I look forward to seeing the comments for this one. This gives me a bad boy of comedy, I'm telling you.